We are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
Not only that, but we're also the founders of Codename.
We're going to be your host for this episode and for every episode.
Unless we're not.
Hasn't happened yet.
Today is our 31st episode.
Oh, and I'm getting signed out of my sheet. Neat.
We are here to answer your development and design questions about idle champions.
Worried that would happen at some point. Wait. You missed the bit.
Huh?
No, we always do a bit to talk about what episode it is.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, well I guess this week that little bit about you getting signed out is our bit.
That's not a very good bit.
Well, you know, we're not professional comedians. We just play them on stream. We are here to answer questions.
Well, in that case, if you don't ask any questions, you're going to have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of the trailer for the Lord of the Rings streaming series.
The Lord of the Rings?
Rings. Lord of the Rings.
Actually, you know, I have not read, nor can I actually even pronounce the name of the prequel book, so I honestly have no idea what's going on in that trailer.
Do you mean the Silmarillion? Because that's, you know, it's not even a novel. It's a collection of mythopoetic stories that actually, honestly, was a huge disappointment to a 13-year-old me who had just finished reading Lord of the Rings and then was hoping for, you know, more of that. And it's just history and poems and esoteric notes. Tolkien left it unfinished, unedited, and unpublished, and it really should have stayed that way.
Oh, okay. Thanks for letting us know how you feel about that. Hopefully the show's good. Anyway,
I'm going to let other people watch it first and tell me.
Let's get into the meat of the show.
It's true. As always, we pulled questions from the previous show that we didn't get to last time, and we're going to answer some of those while we wait for new questions to come in, as well as I do have a few updates on the question or on the items that we tagged for the dev team, so I'm going to hop over to those.
Great.
Okay. So, the list is growing, although I'm sure Peter and then the rest of them are going to get to some of this soon. We have a few items that have been fixed, but otherwise we're still tracking, adding randomization to the familiar placement, adding indication on the formation preview on a start adventure that shows which slot's blocked by which champion rather than just saying what slot it is because, no indication which slot is which.
Long-time viewers know.
Yeah. We are going to be creating feats that lock Briv at various jumping areas. There's a performance pass waiting to do on the Motron core, as well as doing some fast/instant redraw on when it actually does the Motron flowing. I purposely left that one off, Justin, who's highlighted something, but we have some more objective details to add to the multi-parties display, because right now it doesn't show you if you've reached the target area. Oh, you know what? There's this one here, which says the mouse over is not working on the top row of multi-chest items. That is fixed, so I'm going to pull that out.
Ooh.
When I ran that by Peter, he's like, oh yeah, somebody already saw it and fixed it. And so, cool. And we're still looking at improving the flow to the open more chests when you're opening large multiples of chests at a time. We did add a few items last week, and not too many, but the items we added were checking in on the formation circles that we're always showing when always show is selected, because apparently there are cases where they are not always showing. A nice way, all right, we're going to add a faster way to cycle between active Motron cores to the Motron core screen. So if you've got one of the Motron cores up and you want to switch over to the other party and see what that Motron looks like, you have to close that out and go back into the party dialog and then go into the Motron dialog. And we're just going to add some tabs at the top so you can switch between them. And lastly, there was a request to see monster health details more easily. So like when you hover them and you see the numbers and that sort of thing. And our figuring on that from the last show was we would add a hotkey that you just hold the hotkey down and that pops up. And let's see, one more thing. Peter did get back to me with the familiar placement order priorities. And so the priority order goes, it'll first put them in the champion slots, then it'll put them on the fields, then it'll put them on the alts, and then it'll put them on any specifically specified alts. Cool. That's what I got.
That's when you're loading a formation?
That's
you
right.
don't have enough familiars or
That's
something?
right.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry, I should have been more specific there. Yeah, let's get into the questions from last week.
Woohoo!
First one here is from Onyx Squared. And this question is, would you consider a new chest item, sort of like a potion of polish, that would go that would go only to champions that might not have completed their event level achievements, like that get to reach area 175, 225, or 275. You'd open it, and it would randomly hit one of those unachieved levels.
Yeah, I saw this question, and I was like, it doesn't seem too hard to get. One of the things about those is you can actually get those level achievements any year. So you can actually get those for when there's an event running. You can get the ones for the previous years as well as the current years. So I don't think we'll spend tech time on something like this, because it feels like something that's pretty straightforward to actually get without too much effort. You do have to wait for the event to come back up again, but it's not that.
It also seems a little bit disjointed. I mean, getting an achievement out of a chest, or not a chest, it doesn't really feel like you got the achievement, you know?
Yeah. Those achievements are still achievable, and so we will leave them to be achieved in the normal way. Let's see, another question here, or a question here from Plage with 2 J's. They're asking, and this is a question we've gotten a bunch of times, so I figure I'd get it out of the way early today. They ask, is there any way to add feats as part of the Motron automation or formation saves? Kind of like how we can select specializations in Motron automation.
Yeah, so I mean, that one is one that we just really need to get to. Is any reason why we shouldn't do that? It's just something that the feats came out after the Motron system. That's right. Or am I wrong about that? Is it did we do that and not? Oh.
I'm not 100% sure.
Uh-oh.
But it is one of the, like, we initially didn't have specializations in formation saves as well. So it's just formation saves started out as just where the champions were in the formation. So it's very likely that we just didn't add it when we added feats, because that's not what formation saves did at the time. But as we've gone, we've expanded the functionality of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, someone is saying feats were more. The more that now, after I said, when I said it, I lost confidence in it the moment I said it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty sure of that too, because Motron was just last year. Feats have been there for a little bit longer.
It's been longer than that. Anyway, next question here is from Foolish Genius 89.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what? The last 2 years have just been.
Don't tell me about it. Question is right here is: have you considered a global counting blessing for feats? Similar to the skin and familiar counting blessings, global counting.
Yeah,
blessings.
so these are the global. I think there's a global blessing in a couple of different favors that increases your damage based on the number of skins or the number of familiars you have. And Foolish Genius 89 here is just asking about adding a similar one for feats, which I think sounds pretty possible and sounds pretty likely in the future as we scrape for more cool ideas for global blessings, because those things are not easy to come up with.
We're scraping for ideas?
We're scraping.
What are we scraping?
We're in the global blessings ideas mine, and it's okay. Mostly mined out, so we got a little chisel, and we're just like... I
was worried you were going to say
need more ideas.
Global blessings barrel. Idea barrel.
No, it's a mine.
Oh.
It wasn't a very big mine.
Anyway, next question here left over from last week is from Garwar. And Garwar asks, what was the design idea by adding bonus silver chest drops to time gates? Electrum seemed to fit that bill well, and most people are looking to get more golds.
Yeah, so the idea behind having silver champion chests drop for every 100 levels you complete in time gates was a lot of players were looking for a way to complete their collections, get some of those uncommon pieces of gear for event champions, and the silver chests were put in there to give you a little bit more gear, so you get a couple more item levels out of each time gate, but also to potentially, though obviously randomly, fill in some of those gaps, or give players a way to fill in some of those gaps. So that was the idea behind them. That was all done before Electrum chests were a thing, so that wasn't really a consideration at the time. And I think, just off the top of my head, thinking about it now, I don't think that I would replace those with Electrums. Because the silver chests are champion specific, where electrums can hit anyone.
Okay. And the last question we have left over here from last week is from a user called Todd Rising. Not our Todd, I hope. Anyway, the question is, what are the game design benefits to bench seats?
This is like a cool question that I missed last episode. It must have been further down in the list. It's interesting question. So the bench seats, just for anyone who's not clear on what those are the 12 slots at the bottom where your champions are. And obviously there's multiple champions in each bench slot or bench seat. And you can only have one of those active at a time. And the main sort of game design aspect around that is that you can only have one active from each slot at a time. So it allows us to put some different options into each seat, and then basically make you choose which one you want to use to benefit yourself the best. Given the situation you're in. So, you can't just use, if slot 1 had a whole bunch of really good champions, you wouldn't be able to just use all of those champions at the same time. You only use one of them, and you have to pick one from slot 2 and one from slot 3, etc. So it's really just about forcing decisions onto you so that you can do interesting things. Because decisions are a cool way to decide things. That was really badly said, but yes, they're there to limit the champions that you have access to at any one point. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, let's move on to some questions from
today,
from this week, from this year. I'm not wrong; they are from this year. So the first question we have here is from the Real Bunny Beast. And this is a question that we have been asked before. They said, I don't know if this has been asked before, but how did you get the Dungeons & Dragons license? Did you pitch it to Wizards, or did Wizards approach you, or something else?
Yeah, so I mean it's a good question. It's a bit of an interesting story along those lines, and I'm not the one really to tell it, nor is Justin. It would be Eric would be the one who would really get excited about answering this, but I think
he's not here.
So I know, so we'd been working on, or had not been working on, but had the game Crusaders of the Lost Idols, which is a similar game if you've played it. And we've been working on that for a few years at that point, and been out and been doing quite well. And many of us here have been big D&D fans for a very long time, including Eric, who's probably
he's got like some D&D like version 1 stuff.
So huge D&D fan. And he got it in his head that it would be a perfect match. And so the trick to getting a license at that point meant you having to come in contact with someone there and convince them it was a good idea. And so I believe at every possible gaming convention, at every game development meeting, all the stuff, Eric went and found, his name was, I'm going to say it anyway. The guy who was in charge of doing the D&D licensing, and he, kept going up to him and saying, "Hey, listen, we've got this property, and it'll be really great to work with you." And I think at first it was like, no, we're not going to give you the time of day. But he was very persistent, and he kept on it. And eventually, they heard him out, and I liked the idea, and then one thing led to another, and now we're here. So it was an ongoing process just to get the appropriate people there, even to listen, to believe that we were legit, and I think that's probably pretty par for the course for that sort of thing. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Justin. I'm not.
No, that's pretty much the story. We just kept on asking. Eric kept on asking, and eventually they were like, "Yeah, sure, we'll give it a try."
Now, Eric would tell the story better than I, but
yeah.
Anyway, next question here is from GoPlayer7. GoPlayer7 asks, would you consider
GoPlayer7
updating the complete X areas with Y champions to include the newer champions? Additionally, if you could expand it to be 3 out of these 4 or 5 to help with sending a champion to trials or patron overlap.
Yeah, this is a great question. This is about patron challenges and about making them a little bit more up to date, and also making them a little bit easier to complete. And yeah, I mean, these seem like things we can probably do. It's just a matter of when we want to, or when we have the time to get around to it. So yeah, I mean, I think definitely updating them with some of the newer champions. The bit about expanding it to be like a subset of champions is probably a little bit more tech, but certainly updating it to include newer champions could be something we could do pretty easily.
Okay, next question is from Emmett, asking, could Prudence get a rework so she doesn't lose glee stacks if a different champion gets a kill with ultimates? If I have roaming familiars on the ultimate bar, it basically drops Prudence glee stacks to 0 very quickly, heavily disincentivizing the use of ultimates, which kind of sucks because Car Zones is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a great point, and something we can look at for when we are looking at Prudence. I think we could probably maybe just exclude ultimates from the stuff that drops glee stacks. Maybe. Not sure how easy that would be, but certainly something we can look at doing. Let's see. Next question here from this is one I highlighted for you, Dave.
I see that.
From CronG999. And they ask, would it be possible to implement a feature that would let the game window remember its position on the screen?
I think so. It's not something we've looked into. Or I don't even remember if anyone's asked for that before, but I think you should be able to do that. That feels like something we should be able to do. Does it? I don't know, I'm not even. I'm just thinking what the default behavior of that is. Like if you're, like, I assume this is after when you close it and reopen it. To
yes,
position
that would be my assumption too.
Because otherwise, it generally doesn't move on its own. Yeah, I mean, we probably could do that. I'm a little bit curious as to exactly what's happening where that's a problem. And thinking about it just a little bit more, I do wonder if there's other factors that need to be considered when doing something like that. Like, for example, if the monitors have changed. I know that happens to me all the time, where I turn one monitor off and then the windows all move over to the other one, and then it remembers that it's there, and then I go to turn the other one back on, or for some reason VLC does this all the time, or I'll open it up and it'll pop up on a monitor that's actually off.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? And you drag it back over, and then anyway. So I guess there are some considerations around that if that was something that we wanted to add.
Yeah. I should make a note here that if you're not in chat, it looks like chat is currently writing lines like at the beginning of The Simpsons. And so if you type, "I will remember to vote" into chat, you will be entered into a draw to win 42 chests of your choice. Those could be any types of chests except for the types of chests they can't be, which is Glory of Bahamut chests. So type "I will remember to vote" into chat, and you'll have a chance to win that. In fact, your chance is now gone. It's being drawn.
Ooh, can I? No.
No, you cannot win.
Oh.
You can just go into the admin panel and add chests yourself. Yeah. Next question here is from Newbles76, and they say they would like to be able to see the pity timer for various chests, even when you don't have a chest of that type.
Yeah, this is something that people request on the regular, and I do wonder where we would put something like that.
I also wonder where we would put something like that.
Sort of the biggest, certainly we could certainly, that we have that information available, but the question would be where to put it and where would it make sense in terms of why is there a counter here and what does it mean? And
it's there's a lot of chest type, there's hundreds of chest types when you include weekend chests and stuff like that. So it's is it just for champion chests, or is it also for weekend chests, or patron chests when you don't even have the patron unlocked? There's a lot of interesting things there with how this would be displayed.
Put it on the time gate screen. Covers a lot, but not everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a thought.
Yeah, it's a tough one about where to put. Maybe it can go in my wonderful collections update dialogue.
Are you ready to give a spiel about that this week?
No, we'll wait and see if we get a question about it.
Okay.
Next question here. A bunch of them for Dave, because you've been highlighting them. I've just been ignoring them. A question from Emote with 2 M's, who says, would you consider adding a hotkeys button to the main menu so that they're less hidden than they are now? Or even better, add them to the sparkly new settings menu and allow us to change them?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay.
Oh, just imagine how professional that settings menu would look if it had a set, keyboard bindings menu.
Yeah, and then when people start changing them, and then you can never be able to tell them which hotkey is whatever again. Not that that's a bad idea. I jest, but certainly we could put something on the main menu. I mean, there are a number of them, or quite a few at this point, and it's not entirely obvious that hovering that H shows the tooltip with the hotkeys. So I don't have any reason. I don't have any opposition to putting that on the menu so people can see it. Might be neat to be able to modify them. That's sort of a little more involved than a display for them, but I'll tag that one. See if anyone's got time and enthusiasm for it. At the very least, we could display them more prominently. The changing one, that's a... Yeah. All right. Next question here, which I highlighted because quite the smart-ass answer for it. I'm sure you've got one too. The Lurking Writer asks, how much time do you devote to preparing those opening bits?
Man, we spend hours and we spend like
exactly
10 minutes?
The amount of time you would expect from what you get.
Generally at like 1:10 or so every Thursday, Dave turns to me and says, well, it's time to prepare for the stream.
Usually with what's going to be today's code.
And then we hum and haw for 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure it out. Generally, one of us writes something and the other one goes, yeah, I guess that'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Next question here, which actually I thought this was kind of an interesting request. But this question here is from Volcus. And the question is, can you make event tokens drop 1 hour before events start? In other words, they're asking if they could start the event with some tokens and then stop event tokens 1 hour before the event ends. So the players have time to spend those tokens instead of waiting to the very last second to start the last adventures, so no tokens are wasted. And there's a statement about the load on servers being at the end of the event being huge, meaning that everything slows down and it's tough to get those last minute purchases in, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so interesting suggestions here. I think with regards to making event tokens drop before the event starts, I don't think that's something I would ever consider doing. There is obviously, most people will know there's a blessing that you can get that will make you start with 2,500 event tokens. So I think that covers that pretty well. Stopping event tokens dropping before the event ends could be a little bit confusing. So I think if I was going to do something to try and make sure that the tokens don't get wasted, I mean, we don't want to let you start adventures after the event ends, but I mean, we might be able to do something where you can like spend them in a store or get some sort of bonus for having them at the end. I'm not sure. We never really considered what to do with that. We've always just kind of encouraged players to use them before the event ends.
I thought that we had originally had some consideration around having a grace period to spend them, but I remember it being a bit...
To spend them in the store,
Yeah.
But
that it had a bunch of caveats around it that had made it more difficult at the time, and we just sort of had put that on hold.
The tech did not support it at the time.
Because we had done that previously, and I can't remember what was it, if it was in Crusaders or if we'd done it in other games like Bushwhacker.
It wasn't Crusaders. Crusaders has the same setup as Champions. Mm-hmm. I think it was one of the older.
It was Eggbreaker.
One of the older games. Yeah. Yeah. I think it might have been Eggbreaker 1. 12 years ago.
At any rate, I remember it being something we had talked about, but not something that we'd ended up taking action on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And looks like there's some good discussion about event tokens in chat, which we are checking out. Yeah, I think there's some interesting ideas there. One other comment in this question was about the load on servers being high in the last event minute, and I will say that one of the things that we have actually fixed in the last couple of days is some of those server load issues. It looks like there was a bump in load when we started working on localization, or when we started rolling out a whole bunch of the localization stuff behind the scenes, and we managed to figure out what was going on there and get that fixed. So hopefully a lot of the issues that players have been seeing in the last few weeks with retrying requests should be, knock on wood, should be resolved at this point. So let us know if you guys have been having a better play experience in the last about 24 hours or so.
Okay.
Let us move on.
Where were we? 13.
We're right here.
Yes. This question is from Nooble76. And Noobles asks, are there any chance that we would be able to swap duplicate epics received for another not yet owned, either on the same champ or a different champ?
Yeah, so good question. The code shouldn't allow for a duplicate epic on a champion that does not already have all their epics, so that should not be a thing that happens. If you've ever gotten, or at least in the last 4 years or so, if you've gotten a duplicate epic on a champion that is not yet fully epicked, that is a bug, and please let us know so we can look at it. For a different champion, no, I don't think we will do that. Any reason for that?
Not reason, but insight into why that would be.
Well, I mean, certainly it doesn't make sense for opening a champion chest and getting gear for a different champion. And that is kind of the majority of the chests you open outside of gold chests. If we were going to restrict it to other chests for that that are available in that chest, I mean, this should be a very rare occurrence anyway, just because of how we prioritize upgrades. So I don't think... I think it'd be very rare that you would get a duplicate epic in a chest when that chest could potentially drop an epic for another champion. It probably could happen if you got a rare upgrade in that chest, but it's just not something that's going to happen very often, because I think we're very generous with our chest drops anyways, or already. So yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Dave, or? I don't feel like I covered that very well.
My feeling was that, certainly when you have a chest and you get items, when you open a chest and you get a selection of items, there's that excitement of what items you're getting, and if you're getting something good or something not so good, but it has to be balanced between winning some and losing some, and all of the bigger items always get divvied out. Then you have that. It takes away from I think a bit of the random chance of it, the excitement. It alters the what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it alters the feeling that it gives you. So I think it's less exciting is my take. And additionally, then it also would change the game balance, because things would then epic out faster. The only case I can think of in the chance where you receive, if you got a duplicate epic, I think it'd be once you've completed all the epics on a champion, and you've got leftover chests. If you're getting epics that way, I can see that. That feels like more of what they'd be asking around. But yeah, I think it changes the balance, and it changes the how exciting or not exciting it is for those. So okay, next question here is from Camro85, and they're asking, wouldn't it be cool if you could see the average eye level of your champions without having a spare blacksmith contract? Maybe some sort of collections page.
Oh, what a great idea, Camro85. So yeah, this is the opportunity I will use to talk about.
There's another one further down too, but
I know, I saw that too. I was like, I got it. Anyway, so one of the things that we'd like to do down the road at some point when we've got a bunch more dev time, is to do a big upgrade for the collections page. Now, the collections page, for those of you who use the gamepad console UI, you won't know what the heck I'm talking about. But for people on mobile or tablets or PC, the collections page basically just shows what gear you have for all of your champions. And what gear you have collected. So if you've gotten like the common and uncommon version of a piece of equipment, even if you already have or if you have the rare one now. So it shows that for all of your champions. And what we want to do somewhere down the road is update that page. So in addition to showing, all of the equipment you have, it could show things like this average item level. It could show all the champions. So you could go in and view their abilities without having to swap to them. It could show all of the feats that are in the game and which ones of them you have and which ones you don't have, and like a progress bar of how many you've collected out of all of them, and a whole bunch of progress bars. Basically, how much of the game have you fully completed, with a really big one at the top that's like, working your way towards 100% of the game. Because right now it's kind of tough to say like when you've 100% of the game, because there's certainly you could have all of the Steam achievements if you've done all the variants, but then you might not have done all the patron variants. So there's just something like that is coming down the pipe someday. But as I always caveat that, it's literally not on the timeline right now for the next year or so, and we will see when it eventually ends up happening. I'm just going to cross off this other one here because that's basically the same thing. Let's go on to the next question.
Certainly. This question is from Lizard Tastes Good. Lizard Tastes Good asks, can we please get Motron reset limit raised from $14.99? Currently, I have enough favor to click above $14.99, but Motron is stopping me from being more efficient.
I think we get this question once a week or so. And the answer is we don't have any plans to raise it right now. I think the number of players who are in the same boat as you, Lizard Tastes Good, is extremely, extremely low. And so it's not really something that would have any effect for players who are of lower favor than that. And I think it might just be maybe a little bit confusing to players to be like, max level I can reach is level 400, but why is Motron giving me the option to go to 2000? It's like, doesn't really necessarily make a lot of sense. It might just make some things look like they're a little bit out of reach or are in or just out of whack. So no plans right now to change that one. But certainly some point down the road, when we start to catch up to those levels through soft cap increases and other systems being added to the game, then we'll certainly update it, but not in the immediate future.
Okie dokie. Next question here from OG17. Would you consider reworking feats into toggles that can be all simultaneously on? Would give weak feats use, remove dull micromanagement, and still add little power compared to an update. Plus might allow for auto toggling stat feats to fix the patron variant eligibility visibility problem.
Yeah, this is an interesting suggestion. I think, to answer the question, yeah, I would consider that. I think the initial idea with feats was that they be another one of those choices that you have to make. Do you want to focus on gold find versus support? Do you want to focus on DPS versus support, or being for tanks, do you want them to be a little bit beefier, or do you want their support abilities to be increased? But I think that the system's not fully succeeding at that due to the fact that the feats they're not super impactful. That's probably one of the reasons I would consider doing something like this, is just having all of the feats on wouldn't actually be a huge impact on the game versus having them all off. A different direction we could go with this would be to rework feats to just make the bonuses a lot bigger and a lot more impactful. Instead of it being like an 80% bonus to DPS at or to an ability at Epic, it could be a much higher number. and then you start to get more interesting choices there about which ones to use, and they can be a little bit more impactful. And going in and being like, hey, I'm going to buy the gem feat for this because it's actually going to give me a big boost, as opposed to just like a tiny, like, not even a quarter of a level of progress kind of thing. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Thanks for the question. It was a good one. Well, typey.
Just getting some insight on a question I saw, just in case someone knew something before we got to it. All right.
Cool.
Next question is from Onyx Squared. And they state, clarifying my question. I understood you can't do the achievement with retired characters. I understood they cannot be achieved.
Okay. So this was a question about the item that grants the potion, or the area achievements, the event area achievements, 175, 225. And so yeah, those are achievable. There are no unachievable achievements with regards to event champions. You can either do them through the new events when they come out, or you can do the variant ones through time gates. So yeah, they are all doable. And moving on to the next question, now that we've done like 6 for me in a row, let's do one for Dave. Yay!
Oh, so it's not about who gets questions.
But yeah, it gives me a chance to not talk for a bit. From Two Sips Gibbs, they are asking, or they're saying, well, they're saying something and they're asking something. And they are saying, the new settings UI is awesome. I agree. Yeah. And then they're asking, could the inventory UI be changed to use a similar design? Splitting chests, potions, and contracts would go a long way.
I think that says should.
It says say swould.
Yes. So I assume the idea here would be taking, like, having a tabular system on the left, and then having it filtered into the tabs on the box on the right, so you can see just specific types. That's not a bad idea. I mean, that particular dialogue it's kind of long in the tooth. I like it. I can't prioritize it, but I like it. I like the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I think there's a lot of UI that if we had a bunch of time to kind of go back over things and tweak, that we would probably make some changes. Like the profile UI actually is something that we have redesigned a couple of times, but never actually found the time to go in and actually implement it or iterate on our redesigns. So there's a bunch of stuff that we would definitely like to improve there.
Yeah. And it'd be fair, because I know when last time you said we get dev time for blank, someone in the chat was like, haha, yeah, right. That's not quite what they said, but we do obviously get time we do end up with extra cycles on this from time to time, and that is why some of these changes do get made. And there's a pretty major UI feature on redesign right now that will be coming out soon. 4 to 6 weeks, probably.
It's a code name soon.
Yeah. And once that completes, then some of that time will also be available for some of these other UI related stuff. So,
no, I need that time.
Well, yes,
I need that for my cool stuff.
What is good? It definitely is a bit of a fight to the death on where that time.
A little bit of a battle royale.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Precisely. Okay. Next question here is from Island Guy 666. I'm hitting the soft cap more often and at lower levels. Currently level 448. When does this end?
So I wasn't 100% sure what you were asking, Island Guy 666. Whether you were like, are we going to be hitting or raising the soft cap soon? And the answer to that question, which I'm not sure is the question you were asking, but yes, we always, we periodically will raise the soft cap. We'll add another 50 levels or so of upgrades, and that is something that is probably should be done fairly soon, because we haven't done one, I think, since close to the end of the year last year. So yeah, we are going to always be adding more soft cap levels and raising that cap to what you can get to, and we have to, because I was incredibly aggressive with the Wild Beyond the Witchlight adventure difficulty curve. So that is going to get out of hand if we do not raise the soft cap soon. Let's see. Here's a question from Maniac Clown, who asks or says, on the subject of blessings, how about a centralized place you can see the total bonuses granted by your blessings, similar to when you hover over the flow source of a Motron core?
Yeah, I mean, that feels like a nice to have for sure. Certainly could be like a, what am I thinking? No, you don't know what I'm thinking.
Let me see. 42, something.
No. 1623. I don't know what the code was. Yeah, no, I mean, some kind of a summary page that's sort of like a totals on one side or the other of the blessings dialogue would be a nice, it would be a nice to have.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you like seeing the global bonuses would definitely be cool, but also like the individual favor blessings. Obviously, those don't apply everywhere, so you'd need to be very clear about whether or not they were active in your current adventure. But yeah, I could see there being a place there to kind of hover and see everything.
Yeah,
it's a cool idea.
Okay, next question is from Eldoin. And Eldoin asks, is there a chance of additional assigned formation positions? So I think they're asking for formations with more slots.
Potentially. And we don't have any plans to add more formation slots into formations. I think 10's pretty good. Alternatively, if you're asking about formation saves, like more formation save, like I know somebody up here was asking about more hotkeys for saving and loading formations. No plans for that at this time. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what they're asking about here.
Okay. Well, if they see in chat, maybe they'll clarify.
Yeah, Eldoin, please feel free to clarify that, and we'll keep an eye out in chat.
Okay. Yeah, next question. I highlighted, this is kind of an interesting hypothetical, but the question is from Decaf Hobgoblin 5.
Decaf Hobgoblin 4, 3, 2, and 1 were all taken? Wow.
Could very well be. Their question is, do you think the idea to add some upgrades to familiars sounds good or seems possible?
I'm also not 100% sure what they mean by this.
Oh, really? I mean, to me, this sounds like they're talking about having some kind of a bonus on the familiars, right? Like add upgrades to familiars. So
it's like different familiars provide a different bonus?
I think so. I think that's what's being asked.
Huh. Interesting. I've never thought of that, to be honest.
Chat suggesting they should have hats.
Hats for familiars. I think that my sort of initial gut reaction to it, if you would like to hear my initial gut reaction to it, because that's all I have right now, is it feels like it could be just a little bit fiddly. You might want to try and have like certain familiars into certain formations that where their buffs like synergize well with that formation, and it feels like something that could get kerfuffled by formation. Like, we made a change recently, so formation saves would just load in whatever familiars if the specific ones that were saved there weren't available, and it feels like this kind of thing would run counter to that and could just result in a bunch of sort of opposite problems to that. So that's kind of my initial feelings on that. But I do like the idea of hats for familiars.
Yeah, no, I think the chat has spoken. Familiars should have hats.
Okay.
But I don't know that the hats have bonuses. So.
No, of course, hats don't have bonuses. Except for that one hat that's got like the helicopter thing on top, because that lets you fly.
Yeah. And you know what I think would be a great idea is if you could put hats on your hats. I don't think anyone's ever done that. Wait.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the serious answer to the question, though, is it would require some thought, and it's probably not.
It would require quite a bit of thought. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
It'd throw a design wrench in there that we don't currently have.
Yeah. Next question is from DataJack, who asks, any chance to add controller shortcuts to PlayStation to allow someone to get back to level 1 quickly for Bud use? For example, R2 plus L3 is back to level 1, whereas R2 plus R3 goes back to the current level. Oh, I see. Okay.
And
So getting all the way back to level 1 to maximize your bud, and then going all the way back to the max level with just one little click.
Do we not have this currently? Like, if you hold all the way to the left, does it not?
I think it only goes back one at a time, is my sort of recollection, unless we made changes after the initial.
I thought if you held it down, it went rapidly through the levels until you let go. I could
Yeah,
be
but
wrong.
even if you're in
if
you're in like area 500, it would probably, no matter how rapidly we go, I think it would take quite a while.
DataJax is saying one at a time in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, right. And then of course, Gar's wanting shift on the PC version. You just hold shift and click. Yeah. Okay. No, I mean that's certainly worth looking at and tagging it.
Cool.
Next question. Noobles76 asks, I think it was teased about new evergreens coming down the road. Any further details possible?
Let's see. What do I want to tease on this? There is a new evergreen. I actually just finished balancing them yesterday. What to say about them? I will say that this new evergreen is of a new race that has not existed in the game yet, or at least not as a playable champion. So there you go. And Mike Baldy says, I promised him a slot 2 magic tank. Did I?
You did. I was there.
Oh, I don't remember that.
The VOD will confirm it. We'll find out. Anyway, next question is from Alpha Crawl, and Alpha Crawl asks, could you remove collect X gem quests from patron challenges until that can be done offline?
Yeah, I think what I would rather do than remove that is just make them work online or offline. Well, they already work online, kind of. So yeah, I think rather than remove them, I'd like to fix that up, and I will flag that and see if we can get some time on that. That is one of the big things in our kind of list of offline progress / Motron animation fixes that we want to do. That collect gems one is super annoying that it doesn't work. Let's see. Oh yes, here's the question that we sort of touched on earlier about, but I'll ask it anyway just so we can be clear on it. Question from Phoenix Fire, and they ask, any plans for hotkeying more save formations? I find I have 4 to 6 formations for many runs and would love more hotkey goodness.
4 to 6 formations.
That is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have any plans at the moment. It's one of those things that if it was a highly or hotly requested item, that we would consider it further, but it's not something that we're seeing a lot of interest in. I don't know. You have any thoughts on that, Justin?
Do we use the R, T, or Y hotkeys for anything right now?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the challenges is like we could maybe do more hotkeys, but there's not a lot of screen real estate there for more buttons there, and those hotkeys do correspond with the buttons. Oh yes, T is hide UI and R is complete mission. Oh, R for reset. Yeah, so it would require a little bit of thought to.
We can just combo keys can be Control Shift F and then 1 through.
Control Shift, yeah.
It's
going to require two or 3 hands. You have to get your friend to come over. You have to Control Shift F, then you have to hit Enter on the numpad, and then one of the F keys on the other hand. So you need a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, it's an interesting question, but I think it would require a bit of thought as to how to kind of lay that out in the game, and then the hotkeys for that as well. Next question here is from Iron Mask 75, and they ask, any fix for the PlayStation 4 version? Just downloaded the game yesterday and it never loads. Gets a network error.
Yeah, so I popped this into the chat earlier, or into the Idle Champions channel here earlier, so I could see if anyone here knew about that. And Sean tells me that he does get that reported from time to time, and that it's usually a DNS-related issue. So it's resolved by changing the DNS. I don't have any specific instructions for how to do that on the PS4 offhand, but it does sound like something that Sean knows about. So I imagine if you reach out, he can give you instructions for that. Okay.
Someone else is saying the PlayStation is broken from this week's patch.
Oh, well,
odd.
That's different then.
We'll have to look some more into that, but we will we'll give we'll pass that on.
No longer able to move characters from one party to another. Font's all screwed up. Uh-oh.
Weird.
Okay.
Huh.
I'll pass that on to Peter.
Yeah. Huh. Let's see. Next question from Del Ramian. And they say, a question about localization. Did you use a program or did you have some real peoples that control that? Because Google is not good at translating whole phrases.
There's a lot to be said for this particular question. But the answer is, yeah, we had a professional localization company do the localization for us. Definitely Google Translate is not up to the job. So, yep.
Yep. We did not Google Translate it.
There are, as it turns out, a lot of words in Idle Champions, and it did take them a significant amount of time to get through everything.
There are in fact more than 80,000 unique phrases, and it's
yeah,
it's problematic when you've got that much text in the game.
Yeah, and that's phrases. Yeah. I don't remember what the word count got to, but it was really high.
It's like 500,000 or 600,000. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. This next question here looks like it's for you, Justin. Asked by the Lurking Writer. Questions regarding potions. 1. Fire breath potions aren't operating as their description suggests. Will either their effect or description be changed to so they line up? Can there be an option to manually end the effects of a potion with a confirmation dialogue to avoid accidents, of course?
Yeah, so I'm going to be annoying and answer the second part of this first and then come back around to the first part. So we have talked before about adding in some sort of option to disable or end the effects of a potion. I think probably disable/pause the effects is probably what we would go with, so that we don't need that confirmation dialogue, so that you can't accidentally get rid of a huge potion. So that is something we've talked about before, and we're still kind of thinking about how we would go about doing that. With regards to fire breath potions, I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to here with regards to how they're working versus what the description says. I think this might be related to I feel like the fire breath DPS overrides your click damage instead of adding to it, which may very well be a bug. It's generally not an issue except for at very, very, very high favor amounts. So that's Grey Dawn V is saying that the description says add to, but they actually replace. So yeah, this is sort of an edge case that is only super pertinent in some edge cases. But we can look at that and see why they are adding or why they are replacing instead of adding. It sounds like that's probably a bug, but not one that has been super impactful up until recently, when people have had so much click damage from favor that they can't even get their bud as high. So, yeah.
Okay. Next question here is from Star Chaser 43, and they're asking that ICP-1 and ICP-2 were a year apart, and when ICP-3 starts next week, it will be approximately 6 months. Do you think Idle Champions Presents will continue moving more quickly in the future? So I think the question here, Justin, is on this trajectory, when we get to ICP 17, when will it actually, be overlapping with ICP 18? And
given this thing, so ICP 3 and ICP 4 will be 6 months apart. So 1 and 2 are a year apart, 3 and 4 will be 6 months apart.
In 3 months.
5 and 6 will be 3 months apart. And then by the time we get to 7 and 8,
6 weeks, and they run for 6
so
weeks.
They'll go right after each other, and then and then 9 and 10 will overlap. So yeah, I think that's probably no. Honestly, I don't know. ICP stuff is kind of designed in parallel in parallel to the game design and stuff. So I don't have a lot of insight into what they're planning for that. And if I did, I probably couldn't tell you because I get murdered in my sleep by the marketing team. But I know that they put a lot of time and effort into ICP. It's a lot of planning that goes into that stuff, and a lot of wrangling to try and get everyone set up and available. And so I think that I think we'll continue to do them sort of as quickly as we can.
Oops. I see in the chat that Sean is saying that we're making Dylan cry. All right.
Let's see. It looks like we're running a little bit low on time.
Yeah, we got a few minutes left, so 1 or 2 more questions. Here's a question from Old Man Master.
Mm-hmm.
An old man asks, we have a way to load whole parties and familiars at once. We can even remove all familiars from the field at once. Can we get a way to empty the field of all champions at once? Maybe a hotkey like familiars.
That's not a bad idea. It is kind of annoying if you want to kind of reset to pull all your guys out all at once. Or not all at once, but one after the other. So you have to drag them down to the bench. You just hold down a hotkey and be like, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah. Now the next question here, that's evidently can't be perfectly serious. By Wandering Bereft has Justin now spent so long on what is the pipe dream of the collections revamp sequence or sequences? So him describing each stream, how exciting and how many new features are going to be in that he could have actually redone it by now himself in that time.
Probably not. I mean, I've spent a while on it, but the reason this thing is a bit of a pipe dream, a bit of a far in the future type thing is it's not trivial to do. And maybe I'm just answering this question too seriously, but yes, it's going to take a long time to do, and a lot of planning needs to go into it as well. There's a lot of data that is not actually loaded and sent to the client that we'd want to display on it, so we'd probably end up crashing the servers trying to load all that stuff too. There's a lot of problems with it.
We'll figure it out.
Someday.
But not today, because we are out of time for questions today.
Oh, no. Well, okay. Well, if we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry. You'll have another opportunity. We'll be live again at the same time next week. But before we sign off, we'd like to thank our tireless mods, Mars and Martin, who copy your questions into our question stock and generally make things awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such excellent questions, and enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
We'd have to do something else.
All right. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone.
Goodbye.
I really need one of those Steam Deck things so I can push the button, because every time I have to push this thing, I have to look over to the left.
Yes, very awkward.
Yeah.